Okay, so today I'm gonna go over 2 days of Tanya because on Shabbos I can't put out a video. So we have Vav Tevis, which finishes off Perek Zion, where we learned that when everything, our vitality, our blood comes from everything that we eat and drink. And so if you eat something that's usher for you to eat, forbidden for you to eat, what's happening is that you're actually receiving vitality from the other side, from the three klipos that are purely evil, and they cannot be elevated up to holiness. And the only way you can elevate it up to holiness is by going through this high level of tshuva that's called tshuva from ahava rabbah, a very high level of love that actually Baalei tshuva have. It comes from our thirst to Hashem, that comes from the distance that we had from Hashem. So we feel a great thirst to get close to Hashem. That only comes because of the distance. Like a couple, if they're always together, they don't miss each other, and they don't have that love like somebody would have when they separate, and then all of a sudden they're back together again after a long period of time of not seeing each other. That creates a love that doesn't exist amongst couples that are always together. So the same thing applies over here. The fact that we actually went away from Hashem and we didn't follow Hashem, it actually gives us the privilege to connect to this high level of love. Not to connect, but it arouses this high level of love for Hashem. And with doing tshuva, with that level of love, you can elevate all the averas that you did up to holiness. So that applies to everything except for one specific avera. It finishes off in Perek Zion saying that's today's Tanya about spilling seed. That it explains that you could do the lower level of love, the lower tshuva through love that you do, even if it's not this high level of love, you can still elevate it up to holiness. He explains that spilling seed, on one hand, it does connect you to a lot of tumah. There's a lot of in quantity, but the quality of the tumah, it's not very potent, which is why it doesn't say clearly in the Torah that it's actually asur, because of the difference between this avera and other averas. And it is also why it's much easier to elevate the seed that was spilled up to holiness through the lower level of tshuva. So that was the end of Vav Tevis. Zion Tevis, we started learning about Perek Ches. Perek Ches, now we're getting to Perek Ches. He continues speaking again about the things that are usher, the foods that are usher. So like we mentioned before, it gets into your blood. It becomes a part of you. And so if you learn Torah, and what's giving you the strength to learn Torah is that blood streaming through your system that came from the non-kosher foods that you ate. So that means the Torah that you learned will not be elevated up to holiness. You might as well read a secular book. You're not getting anywhere. I wouldn't say it's better not to learn Torah, because when Mashiach comes, it will go up to holiness. Or if you do proper tshuva, then it will go up to holiness. But at the moment, before any of that, it's not elevating you up to a higher level of spirituality whatsoever. I should learn later on in Tanya that's why it says that mitoch shelo lishma ba lishma. The oilim yasugad mitoch shelo lishma. A person should always learn Torah, even if it's not for the sake of Hashem. Shemitoch shelo lishma, even if he's doing it not for by doing it not for the sake of Hashem, he will reach a place where he will do it for the sake of Hashem. But it explains in Tanya what that really means is that even though the Torah is going down to the three klipos and tameos, over there they give a different example. The Rebbe gives a different example. But here's another example. You ate food, non-kosher food, and it brought your Torah down to the three klipos and tameos. So you should learn Torah anyways. I'm not saying not to learn Torah. And eventually, either when Mashiach comes, it's also good, or if before then you do a proper level of tshuva, you can elevate it up to holiness, and by the end of the day, it was worth it. Why learn some secular random study? What's that going to help, right? That's never going to do anything good for you. So, yeah. There is one more thing that we learned today in today's Tanya, So we said you receive vitality from the klipas noga when you eat things that are mutter for you to eat. And even though you learned Torah with that blood afterwards, you ate, you enjoyed, then you decided to learn Torah. So you're elevating it up to holiness, right? The fact that you enjoyed yourself also affects your soul, and also needs to go through a cleansing process afterwards. But this is normal. Like, we're not expected to be on such a level where we won't go through this, where we won't have to be cleansed. And on the contrary, first of all, it says in Tanya that someone like Rabbi Yehuda Nasi doesn't have to go through this cleansing process. Like, you have to be in a very high level, not have to go through this cleansing process. It's not expected of us. And also, we go through different challenges in our life, different sufferings happen to us, so we could appreciate them more. You know, I know that I wasn't one with Hashem, and I was being very animal like, enjoying myself and having a good time. This kind of from Hashem, and now Hashem is cleansing me. How wonderful! It's all about a state of mind, right? So yeah, so this is not something that should actually make us feel bad. But on the contrary, you could feel good with this feeling. Although later on in Tanya, similar ways of thinking along these lines. I'm just including them in now, but we'll learn more about this later on. And to be continued on Sunday.